The notification pinged at 2:17 a.m., lighting up my phone screen like a neon sign in the darkness of our bedroom. Jenna stirred beside me, her breathing still deep and even. I squinted at the message preview. "Thanks for tonight, gorgeous. Can't wait for tomorrow's meeting. Brent." My construction-calloused fingers gripped the phone tighter. Meeting? At this hour? Jenna had supposedly been at her monthly book club until midnight, discussing whatever literary masterpiece the ladies of Millbrook's social elite had pretended to read this month. I glanced at my wife's sleeping form, her auburn hair spread across the pillow like spilled wine. Even in sleep, she looked calculating somehow, as if her dreams were filled with spreadsheets and strategic maneuvers. After 12 years of marriage, I'd learned to read the subtle signs of her deceptions the way I read blueprints at my construction sites. The phone buzzed again. Another message from Brent Colby, the self-proclaimed entrepreneur who drove around town in his Tesla like he owned the place. "Your husband suspect anything? Better keep our story straight about the book club." My stomach dropped to somewhere around my work boots. Book club, right. I slipped out of bed, padding barefoot to my home office down the hall. The hardwood floors creaked under my weight, all 220 pounds of former military contractor turned small-town construction boss. Jenna always complained about the noise, but tonight I hoped she stayed asleep. In my office, I powered up my laptop and opened our shared cloud storage. Jenna had insisted on it years ago for transparency in our marriage. Ironic, considering what I was about to discover. Her recent photos told a story that had nothing to do with book discussions. Brent's smug face appeared in dozens of selfies, his arm draped around my wife's shoulders at restaurants I'd never been to, events I'd never heard about. The timestamps revealed a pattern spanning 3 months, every Tuesday and Thursday when she claimed to be working late, every weekend when she had mysterious client meetings. I scrolled deeper, my jaw clenching with each image. There was Brent's downtown loft, recognizable from the floor-to-ceiling windows he'd bragged about at last year's Chamber of Commerce mixer. There was Jenna, wearing the black dress I'd bought her for our anniversary, except she was wearing it for him. The final folder made my hands shake with rage. Videos, dozens of them, some taken in Brent's loft, others in what looked suspiciously like Jenna's office at the tech startup where she worked as operations manager. The most recent one was dated yesterday. While I'd been installing kitchen cabinets for the Hendersons, my wife had been installing herself in another man's life. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I sat back in my desk chair, the leather squeaking in protest. Nick Callahan, decorated veteran, successful businessman, loyal husband, and apparently the biggest fool in Millbrook, Maine. But not for much longer. I spent the next hour methodically downloading everything, organizing files, taking screenshots. My military training had taught me the importance of intelligence gathering before any operation. This would be the most important mission of my life. At 4:30 a.m., I heard Jenna's alarm go off. She always set it early on Fridays for her yoga class, or what I now realized was probably another lie in her carefully constructed web of deception. I quickly closed the laptop and crept back to bed, feigning sleep as she moved around the room getting ready. Through barely opened eyes, I watched her select her outfit with unusual care. The red blouse that accentuated her figure, the skirt that was just short enough to be professional yet provocative. "Nick?" she whispered, testing if I was awake. I kept my breathing steady, playing the role of the oblivious husband one last time. She kissed my forehead gently, a gesture that once would have melted my heart, but now felt like a betrayal of everything we'd built together. Her perfume, expensive, floral, nothing like the practical woman I'd married, lingered in the air after she left. I waited until I heard her car pull out of the driveway before getting up. Through the bedroom window, I watched her silver sedan disappear down Maple Street, probably heading to another yoga session with Brent. My phone rang, jarring me from my surveillance. Eli Morrison's name appeared on the screen, my best friend since high school, former police officer turned private investigator. "You're up early for a Friday." Eli's gravelly voice came through the speaker. "Couldn't sleep," I said, which was true enough. "Construction business keeping you busy?" "Something like that." I paused, weighing my words carefully. Eli, hypothetically speaking, if someone wanted to verify whether their spouse was being truthful about their whereabouts, what would be the most effective approach? Silence stretched between us for several seconds. Eli had always been sharp. It's what made him a good cop and an even better PI. "Hypothetically," he said slowly, "I'd suggest that someone gather concrete evidence before making any accusations. Emotions make people sloppy, and sloppy people make mistakes they can't take back." "And if this someone already had concrete evidence?" Then this someone should probably meet me at the Briar Patch tonight. Say, 7 o'clock? The Briar Patch was Millbrook's unofficial headquarters for gossip, situated perfectly between the blue-collar neighborhood where I'd grown up and the upscale development where Jenna and I now lived. Moira Sullivan, the bartender, knew everyone's business before they did. I'll be there, I said. After hanging up, I made coffee and sat at my kitchen table, staring out at the perfectly manicured lawn Jenna insisted we maintain. Everything in our life looked perfect from the outside. Successful careers, beautiful home, active social life. But perfection, I'd learned, was often just another word for deception. My phone buzzed with a text from Dylan, my youngest crew member. Boss, the Morrison job is ready for final inspection. Should I schedule it for Monday? I typed back quickly. Yes, and Dylan? I might need a favor this weekend. Nothing illegal, just creative. You got it, boss. Everything okay? It will be. I finished my coffee and headed to the shower, already formulating a plan. Jenna thought she was playing chess while I played checkers. She had no idea that her husband had spent 2 tours in Afghanistan learning how to outthink and outmaneuver people who were actually dangerous. Brent Colby and my cheating wife were about to discover that Nick Callahan wasn't the simple construction worker they'd taken him for. The game was about to begin. The Briar Patch smelled like decades of spilled beer and broken dreams, perfect for thinking clearly. I arrived at 7, finding Eli already at our usual booth, nursing whiskey. The Friday night crowd was thin, mostly regulars who treated the place like home. Moira approached, setting my beer down before I even sat. You look like someone who's had a revelation. Something like that. I took a long pull from the bottle. Moira, what do you know about Brent Colby? She raised an eyebrow. The Tesla guy? Thinks he's God's gift to entrepreneurship? He's been spreading his charm around lately. His wife doesn't seem to mind. Maybe she doesn't know. His wife? This was news to me. Miranda Colby. Works at the library. They moved here 6 months ago. Moira glanced around and leaned closer. Funny thing about charm, Nick. It works both ways. After she left, Eli leaned in. So, what's the situation? I showed him photos. His face darkened as he scrolled. How long has this been going on? 3 months, maybe longer. Texts, photos, videos. She's been lying about everything. Where she goes, who she sees, what she does. Eli handed back my phone. What's your goal here, Nick? Divorce? Confrontation? Public humiliation? I want her to feel what it's like to have your life turned upside down by someone you trust. I want consequences. Revenge is a dangerous game. So is betrayal. Eli studied me, probably remembering the soldier I used to be. What do you need? Information, weaknesses, patterns. I leaned back. Jenna thinks she's smarter than everyone, but every structure has weak points. And Brent? Brent's a narcissist who can't resist bragging. He's predictable. Eli and I developed a reconnaissance strategy. He would dig into Brent's background. I'd document Jenna's patterns. One more thing, Eli said. Keep it legal. I'm not trying to fix my marriage, I replied. I'm trying to end it properly. Saturday morning, I set phase 1 in motion. While Jenna went to her yoga class, I visited our phone provider. I need to add tracking to my wife's phone, I told the representative. She's having GPS issues. 20 minutes later, I had access to her location data. Next stop, Jenna's office. I visited Marnie Chen, Jenna's CEO, under the guise of checking on the HVAC system. Is Jenna around? I asked. She took a personal day, Marnie replied, concern in her voice. Has she been telling you she's working weekends? No, just thought she was catching up on work, I lied smoothly. After leaving the office, I drove to Riverside Commons, where Brent lived. His Tesla was parked next to Jenna's weekend car. I parked across the street and called Dylan. I need you to do something for me, I said. Okay. Go to 47 Elm Street, Riverside Commons. There's a silver Tesla in the driveway. Leave this note on the windshield. Your wife called. She knows about Tuesday nights. Might want to check your rearview mirror. A concerned neighbor. Got it. While Dylan handled that, I went to the library to find Miranda Colby. She was reading to preschoolers in the children's section. After the story ended, parents collected their kids while Miranda cleaned up scattered books. I waited until the room cleared, then approached her with a smile. Miranda, right? I said, offering my hand. I'm Nick Callahan, Jenna's husband. I just wanted to introduce myself. Her smile faltered slightly. Oh, of course. It's nice to meet you. I believe you've met my wife before, I said casually. Yes, we've met. Her eyes shifted nervously. Really? She never mentioned you, I said, watching her carefully. How do you two know each other? Through Brent. They work together sometimes. Work together? What kind of work? I asked, keeping my tone light. Maybe you should ask Jenna about that, she replied, glancing at the empty children's section. I think I will, I said with a smile. It was nice meeting you, Miranda. Maybe we could all have a dinner sometime? Her face went pale. That would be nice. I walked away, already knowing what kind of conversation would take place at the Colby household tonight. Excuse me, I approached her desk. Are you Miranda Colby? Yes, can I help you? I'm Nick Callahan. I run Callahan Construction, I said, extending my hand. I believe you know my wife, Jenna. Her smile faltered. We've met. Really? She's never mentioned you. I kept my tone casual. How do you two know each other? Through Brent, actually. They work together sometimes. Work together? I feigned confusion. What kind of work? Maybe you should ask Jenna about that. I think I will, I smiled. Nice to meet you, Miranda. Maybe we can all get together sometime. Her face went pale. That would be nice. As I walked away, I heard her fumbling for her phone. By evening, I was sure the Colby household would have some very interesting conversations. My phone buzzed. Package delivered. Guy came out looking like he'd seen a ghost. Phase 1 was complete. Jenna and Brent's perfect world was about to crack. Saturday evening, I organized my evidence. At 9 p.m., Jenna came home, greeting me with practiced affection. She had no idea how true my statement was. I'd been busy gathering the truth. Sunday morning, I watched her phone buzz with frantic calls from Brent. She whispered, clearly panicked. When she emerged, her composure had cracked. Everything all right? I asked, calmly sipping coffee. Just work stuff. Crisis at the startup. She grabbed her keys. I need to go in. On a Sunday? I raised an eyebrow. That seems excessive. You know how it is in tech? Problems don't wait for weekends. I nodded sympathetically. Want me to come with you? No, she snapped. It's going to be boring. You'd hate it. After she left, I called Eli. Phase 2 starts now. What did you do yesterday? Planted seeds of doubt. How would you make someone paranoid? Make them question what they know. Exactly. Jenna and Brent are about to realize their secret isn't as secret as they thought. I'd created fake social media profiles, posting anonymous comments on Millbrook's Facebook page. Within hours, speculation ran wild, especially about Jenna's frequent visits to Riverside Commons with Brent. At the Briar Patch for lunch, Moira leaned in with gossip. Apparently Jenna's been spending time in Riverside Commons with that Brent guy. Can't be right, I said, playing along. Mrs. Henderson said Miranda Colby looked like she'd been crying and asked about workplace relationships, whether they were legal. I smiled. Miranda had taken the bait. I should talk to Jenna, I said, acting concerned. Later that afternoon, I monitored the Facebook storm, watching Jenna's colleagues defend her, but the doubt was growing fast. At 4 p.m., my phone rang. It was Jenna. Nick, we need to talk. About what? About the rumors, about what people are saying. What are people saying, Jenna? You know what they're saying, her voice cracked. That Brent and I are what? Having an affair? The words came out in a rush. Which is completely ridiculous. He's a business associate. We've had some meetings about potential collaboration between his company and mine. At his house? On weekends? Sometimes business happens in informal settings. You know that? I do know that. I kept my voice level, reasonable. I also know that you've been lying to me about where you go and who you see. Silence. Jenna? I haven't been lying. I've been protecting you from boring work details. Book club is boring work details? Another silence, longer this time. I'll be home in an hour, she said finally. We'll sort this out. But I wasn't done sorting things out, not by a long shot. I called Dylan. Remember that favor you owe me from the Henderson job? Yeah, boss. What do you need? I need you to be at the corner of Elm and Riverside at exactly 5:30 p.m. When you see a silver sedan pull into 47 Elm Street, I want you to take some pictures. Pictures of what? Of my wife getting out of her car at another man's house. Dylan was quiet for a moment. Boss, are you sure about this? I'm sure about everything, Dylan. That's the problem. At 5:33 p.m., my phone buzzed with a text from Dylan. Got them. She went right to the front door like she belonged there. At 5:45 p.m., I posted the photos to the Millbrook Community Facebook page from one of my fake accounts. Well, this explains the weekend business meetings. Guess some people have different definitions of professional collaboration. The response was immediate and explosive. Within minutes, the post had dozens of comments ranging from shocked gasps to knowing nods. Someone tagged Marnie Chen, Jenna's boss. Someone else tagged Miranda Colby. But the comment that made me smile came from Mrs. Henderson, the sweet elderly woman whose kitchen I'd renovated last month. That poor Nick Callahan. Always seemed like such a nice man. Some women just don't appreciate what they have. By 6 p.m., my phone was ringing constantly. Friends, neighbors, business associates all wanting to know if I was okay, if I needed anything, if the rumors were true. I let most of the calls go to voicemail, but I answered when Eli called. Jesus, Nick. The whole town's talking about it. Good. Let them talk. Jenna's going to know you're behind this. She's going to suspect. But she can't prove anything, and she's in no position to make accusations. What's the end game here? I looked out my office window at the perfectly maintained facade of our life together. The manicured lawn, the matching mailbox, the two-car garage that housed vehicles bought with money from our joint accounts. The end game is truth, Eli. For 12 years, I've been living a lie without knowing it. Now everyone gets to see what's real. At 7:15 p.m., Jenna's car pulled into our driveway. Through the window, I watched her sit in the driver's seat for several minutes, probably reading the Facebook comments that were destroying her carefully constructed image. When she finally came inside, her face was streaked with tears and twisted with rage. How could you do this to me? Do what? I remained seated at my desk, fingers steepled, the picture of calm. You know exactly what. Those photos, those posts, turning the whole town against me. I didn't post anything, Jenna. But I'm curious. If there's nothing inappropriate about your relationship with Brent, why are you so upset about people seeing you at his house? She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. Because people are making assumptions. Are they wrong assumptions? The question hung in the air between us like smoke from a fire that was just beginning to burn. I want you to make them take those posts down, she said finally. I can't make anyone do anything, but you could always post your own explanation. Tell everyone about these innocent business meetings. I'm sure they'd love to hear the details. Her face crumpled, and for a moment I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Please, Nick. This is destroying my reputation. Your reputation, I said quietly, destroyed itself. Monday morning brought consequences. Jenna's phone started ringing at 6 a.m., Marnie Chen wanting an emergency meeting, Darren Walsh asking if she was okay, her mother calling from Portland after seeing the Facebook posts that had somehow made their way to her social circle. I listened to her increasingly desperate conversations from the kitchen, sipping coffee and reading the local news on my tablet. The Millbrook Gazette's online edition had picked up the story. Not the affair specifically, but the social media controversy surrounding a local business professional. Small-town journalism at its finest. I have to go in early, Jenna announced, her voice hoarse from crying. Marnie wants to discuss the situation. What situation would that be? She glared at me with red-rimmed eyes. Don't play innocent, Nick. You orchestrated this whole thing. I orchestrated people seeing photos of you at another man's house? That's an interesting theory. You hired someone to follow me. Did I? That would be quite an investment for a simple construction worker like me. The sarcasm hit its mark. Jenna had always looked down on my profession, despite the fact that my business generated more revenue than her startup salary. Another crack in the foundation of our marriage that I'd ignored for too long. After she left, I called my lawyer, Tom Bradley, a sharp-eyed former prosecutor who'd helped me navigate various business contracts over the years. Nick, good to hear from you, though I suspect this isn't a social call. I need to discuss divorce procedures. Hypothetically. Tom's voice carried a note of understanding. Maine is a no-fault divorce state, which means adultery doesn't affect property division, but it can impact spousal support, especially if marital assets were used to facilitate the affair. What kind of marital assets? Credit cards, joint accounts, shared vehicles. If your hypothetical spouse used community property to wine and dine their lover, that could be considered dissipation of marital assets. I thought about the expensive dinners I'd seen in Jenna's photos, the weekend trips she'd claimed were work conferences, the new lingerie I'd found hidden in her dresser. How would someone document that kind of spending? Credit card statements, bank records, receipts. A good forensic accountant can trace every dollar. And if someone wanted to protect their business assets? Depends on how the business is structured. If it's a sole proprietorship established before marriage, there might be some protection, but I'd need to review specific documents. After hanging up, I spent an hour organizing financial records. 12 years of marriage had created a complex web of shared assets, but my construction business remained largely separate. Jenna had never shown much interest in the day-to-day operations, preferring to focus on her tech career. My phone buzzed with a text from Dylan. "Boss, there's a Tesla parked outside the job site. Guy's just sitting there watching the place." Brent was making his move. "Good." "Don't engage with him," I texted back. "Just document everything. Photos, times, license plate." "You got it." I drove to the construction site, a new residential development on the outskirts of town. Sure enough, Brent's Tesla was parked across from the main entrance, and I could see him behind the wheel, phone pressed to his ear. I pulled into my usual spot and walked over to his car, tapping on the driver's side window with my knuckles. He rolled it down, his face a mask of artificial confidence. "Nick, we need to talk." "About what?" "About this misunderstanding. About the rumors people are spreading." I leaned against his car, my work-hardened frame casting a shadow over his designer interior. "What misunderstanding would that be, Brent?" "About Jenna and me. It's not what people think." "What do people think?" He shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "That we're involved. Romantically." "Are you?" "Of course not. She's a married woman. I respect that." I nodded slowly, as if considering his words. So all those text messages about missing her, about not being able to wait to see her again, about how her husband doesn't appreciate her, those were professional communications? His face went white. "What text messages?" "The ones on her phone, the ones I've been reading for the past week." Brent's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. You can't legally access her phone without permission." "Actually, I can. We're married. Joint account, joint access. Didn't you know that?" He started his engine, hands shaking slightly on the steering wheel. "This isn't over." "You're right," I said, stepping back from his car. "It's not." I watched him drive away, then pulled out my phone and called Eli. "How's your research going?" "Interesting findings. Brent Colby isn't quite the successful entrepreneur he pretends to be. His last 3 business ventures failed, and he's got significant debt. Credit cards, business loans, even owes money to some private investors in Boston." "What's he living on?" "Good question. His wife has a steady job, but librarian salaries don't cover Tesla payments and luxury loft rent. So he's looking for a financial lifeline. That would be my assessment. A wealthy, successful woman like Jenna would be very attractive to someone in his position." The pieces were falling into place. Brent wasn't just after my wife. He was after my wife's assets. Our assets. "Eli, I need you to do something that might be slightly outside normal PI procedures." "How slightly?" "I want you to have a conversation with Miranda Colby, woman to woman. Find out what she knows about her husband's business dealings." "I'm not a woman, Nick." "But you know women who are. Moira, for instance. She's good at getting people to talk." "That could work. What am I looking for?" "Anything that suggests Brent is using his relationship with Jenna for financial gain. Anything that makes this about more than just an affair." That evening, Jenna came home looking worn out. Her usual perfect makeup was smudged, and her confidence had clearly cracked. "How was your meeting with Marnie?" I asked from the couch, remote in hand. She's concerned about the company's reputation, about whether my personal life might affect client confidence. "And what did you tell her?" "I told her the truth, that there's nothing inappropriate between Brent and me." "Did she believe you?" Jenna collapsed into the armchair. "I don't know. I don't think so." "Why wouldn't she believe you?" "Because—" She stopped, realizing she'd stepped into a trap. "Because people love gossip more than truth." "Or because the truth is more obvious than you thought." Silence hung between us as the weight of our marriage pressed down on both of us. "What do you want from me, Nick?" "I want honesty, complete honesty." "About what?" "About everything. Where you go, who you see, what you do. About whether you still want to be married to me." "Of course I want to be married to you." "Even though you're having an affair with Brent Colby?" The words hung in the air like an accusation. "I'm not having an affair." "Then what would you call it?" "It's complicated," she said finally. "Complicated how?" "He makes me feel appreciated, like I matter. And I don't? You see me as your wife. He sees me as a person." The irony was overwhelming. "So you found validation by lying to the person who should matter most to you?" "I didn't mean for it to happen. But it did, and now we have to decide what comes next." "What do you mean?" "Our marriage is over. The question is whether we end it honestly or continue living a lie. I don't want a divorce." Then what do you want? I want things to go back to the way they were. They can't. Too many people know the truth now. Because you made sure they knew. Because you made sure there was a truth to know. She started crying again, but I felt nothing. No sympathy, no desire to comfort her. Please, Nick, we can work through this. Can we? Because from where I sit, you've spent 3 months building a relationship with another man while systematically lying to me. That doesn't sound like something we work through. That sounds like something we recover from. What does that mean? It means actions have consequences, and you're about to find out what those consequences look like. Tuesday brought the reckoning I'd been orchestrating. While Jenna attended her damage control meeting, I implemented Phase 2. Eli had delivered exactly what I'd hoped. His conversation with Moira, who had befriended Miranda Colby, revealed the missing piece of the puzzle. Brent's telling his wife that he's on the verge of a major business breakthrough, Eli reported. A partnership with a local company that's going to solve all their financial problems. Let me guess. He's been courting Jenna as a business partner, not just a romantic one. That's what it looks like. Miranda mentioned Brent's been talking about leveraging relationships with local businesses. Perfect. Brent wasn't just betraying his marriage. He was using the affair to defraud mine. I spent the morning at Tom Bradley's law office reviewing divorce papers and financial protection strategies. By noon, I had a clear legal understanding and options to protect my assets. The key, Tom explained, is documentation. If you can prove that marital assets were used to facilitate an affair or unauthorized business ventures, you have leverage. At 2 p.m., I drove to Jenna's office. The tech startup occupied the 3rd floor, all glass walls and open spaces designed for transparency. The irony wasn't lost on me. I found Marnie Chen in the break room, looking stressed and tired. Nick, I wasn't expecting you. I wanted to talk to you about Jenna, about the situation. Marnie glanced around the empty break room, then gestured for me to sit at one of the small tables. This is awkward for me. She's a valued employee, but the rumors are affecting business. Some of our clients have mentioned seeing the social media posts. In the tech world, reputation matters. Perception becomes reality very quickly. I nodded sympathetically. I understand your position. I'm not here to make things more difficult. What are you here for? Information. Has Jenna mentioned anything about business partnerships, investments, new ventures? Marnie's expression sharpened. Why do you ask? Because I think this situation might be more complicated than a simple affair. I showed her some of the financial records I'd compiled. Credit card statements showing expensive dinners and hotel stays, bank withdrawals that coincided with Jenna's mysterious appointments, transfers to accounts I didn't recognize. This looks like someone using company resources for personal activities, Marnie said, studying the documents. Or someone being courted for business purposes under the guise of romance. You think Brent Colby is running some kind of scam? I think Brent Colby is a desperate man with significant debts who sees my wife as a solution to his financial problems. Marnie was quiet for a long moment, processing the implications. If Jenna was planning to use her position here to facilitate unauthorized business deals, that would be a problem for your company. A serious problem. I left the meeting with Marnie's promise to investigate further and her assurance that any misuse of company resources would be dealt with appropriately. My next stop was the Millbrook Police Department, where I had a conversation with Detective Ray Morrison, Eli's former partner and a man who understood the difference between revenge and justice. I'm not asking you to arrest anyone, I explained. I'm asking you to be aware of a potentially developing fraud situation. Ray reviewed the same financial documents I'd shown Marnie. This does look suspicious. If someone was using false pretenses to gain access to business resources or personal assets, that could constitute fraud. What would you need to pursue it? More evidence. Documentation of specific false statements, proof of financial harm, victim testimony. And if I could provide that, then we'd have a case worth investigating. By 5 p.m., all the pieces were in position. I drove home and waited. Jenna arrived at 6:30, looking more defeated than I'd ever seen her. Her usually perfect appearance was disheveled, her confident demeanor replaced by something approaching desperation. We need to talk, she said, dropping her purse on the kitchen counter. I'm listening. Marnie asked me to take a leave of absence. Paid leave, but still. She says the company needs time to assess the situation. What situation? You know what situation. The rumors, the gossip, the social media posts that are destroying my career. I poured myself a glass of water, taking my time. Is that what's destroying your career? What else would it be? Maybe it's the fact that you've been using company time and resources to conduct a personal relationship. Maybe it's the fact that you've been discussing confidential business information with someone who has significant financial motivations. Her face went pale. What are you talking about? I'm talking about Brent Colby's business proposal, the one where he partners with your company using your connections and influence, the one that would solve his debt problems and give him access to our personal assets. That's not... We never... Jenna, I've seen the emails, I've reviewed the financial records. I know about the money you've been moving around, the accounts you've opened, the plans you've been making. She sank into a kitchen chair, her carefully constructed world finally collapsing completely. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. How was it supposed to happen? Brent has some good ideas. Innovative approaches to tech integration. I thought maybe we could help him get started. With our money? With a loan, an investment, something that would benefit everyone. Everyone except your husband, who wasn't consulted about any of it. I was going to tell you. When? After you'd already committed our assets? After you'd already compromised your professional position? After you'd already destroyed our marriage? She started crying again, but this time the tears felt manipulative rather than genuine. Please, Nick, we can fix this. I'll end things with Brent. I'll focus on our marriage. We can start over. No, I said quietly. We can't. Why not? Because trust once broken can't be repaired. Because respect once lost can't be restored. Because I now know who you really are, and I don't like that person very much. So what happens now? I pulled out the divorce papers Tom Bradley had prepared, setting them on the kitchen table between us. Now you sign these. You take responsibility for your choices, and you start building whatever life you want without me in it. She stared at the papers as if they were a poisonous snake. And if I don't? Then Detective Morrison investigates the fraud allegations. Then Marnie Chen pursues the misuse of company resources. Then the whole town gets to see exactly how far you were willing to go to betray the people who trusted you. You planned this whole thing. I responded to what you did. There's a difference. You destroyed my life. No, Jenna. You destroyed your life. I just made sure everyone could see what you'd done. She signed the papers with shaking hands, her signature a jagged scrawl that looked nothing like the confident woman who'd married me 12 years ago. As she packed her belongings, I sat in my home office, watching the sun set over the town where I'd built my business, my reputation, and my life. Tomorrow, I'd begin the process of rebuilding without her. The last friend request had been denied. The game was finally over.